Okay, so I've held off doing this for a long time because I was only using the new UI for Media Composer on my laptop, and I've finally had about a couple months now to use it in a professional environment on dual monitors, on a big resolution monitor, on an actually powerful computer. And I want to give you some of my thoughts, and I want to show you some things that have really benefited me in this new version. Okay, a lot of the cool stuff in this version is related to bins, and let me show you what I mean. I'm going to open up a bin here, and you'll notice that if I make the icons the largest size, they're actually larger than the previous version's largest size, which is a very welcome addition because the previous version's largest size wasn't looking too great on high resolution monitors. You may have also noticed that when I made this larger size, there's this new bin map here, which lets you scrub anywhere in the bin. And if these clips were really far down, you can also scrub up and down, which is super useful. One other thing, if you click over here and go to Snap to Grid, they have this new beautiful grid line, so you can drag your clips into the grid. They also have a version of it that's invisible, so if you change it down here to invisible, it's still there, it just doesn't show that ugly grid. That's usually what I keep it on most of the time. Okay, so if I want to move these clips into this new bin that I just created, usually you would have to go over here and drag them in. But this new version allows you to actually drag them into the bin itself on the sidebar. So if you go over here, you'll see that the clips are now in there. One other really cool thing is, I'm sure you remember from previous versions, you would be able to highlight a set of clips, go to bin info, and pull up this little console window that has the total duration of the clips here. But now, that's there all the time. So if you just highlight a bunch of clips and look down here, it'll tell you the total duration. So you don't ever have to do those extra steps. I use that all the time. Okay, some other stuff. Let's load a sequence here. Now, we haven't gotten to the screening stage of our movie yet, but when we do, I'm going to use this all the time. It used to be that I'd have to mix picture and audio down separately for doing mixdowns for screenings, but now, let's just say I was doing this section so I don't have to do the whole thing. They have this thing called OP1A MXF mixdown, and this allows you to mix down both at the same time. So you get this window that comes up, and you select the audio configuration you want, and you hit go, and it will make you an actual conjoined clip. So now you'll see here, this mixdown actually has audio tied to it. Another cool thing about this version, you've now got sequence mapping. So if you zoom in, you can now do the same thing you do in bins with bin maps, where you can go all over your sequence. But one thing that's kind of interesting about this, I found this overlay kind of irritating. So if you go into the settings and go to timeline, you can uncheck this setting that says open sequence map as an overlay. And when you do that, it's now going to open as a window instead. So now you've got this separate window that you can place independent of the timeline itself. Super useful. Speaking of settings, there's two that I have to recommend you turn on immediately when starting this version. One I think is on by default, but always check. Go into Titler Plus settings and say add Titler Plus text to clip notes. That'll add whatever you type into your text field when you do a Titler Plus clip into your timeline clip notes, so you can have a list of them. I actually have a separate video about this if you're interested. The other big one, under interface, when moving to a workspace, check on load the last saved state. I can't tell you how annoying this was when I first started this version. It would always load the last known state, meaning if I had modified one of my workspaces, it would load that state instead of the one I had actually saved it as with all the tools and windows I needed. So turn that on right away if you want a familiar functionality with workspaces. One last little thing here, which I really appreciate because I move user settings around all the time. If you go up to here and hit reveal user profile, it'll take you straight to the location of your user in the Finder.